Our Republican priority will always be to be putting government ahead of Americans. Our Republican priority will always be to be putting government ahead of Americans. Our Republican priority will always be to be putting government ahead of Americans. Our Republican priority will always be to be putting government ahead of Americans.
Donald Trump is literally forcing us to become rich and wealthy, and a lot of y'all don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. With the current state of the economy and its projection to get a lot worse, prices on nearly everything that we consume are skyrocketing, except for our wages. It is creating so much uncertainty and uncomfortability within everyday person's finances that it is forcing them by any means necessary to create a financial foundation for themselves some way, somehow. These conditions are forcing people to go seek more knowledge on how to improve their finances or how to earn more money. The content creators that have preaching about financial literacy since forever, even when the economy was stable, when everybody was comfortable, their views were low. But now their views are at an all-time high because everybody is desperate. And even though a lot of people think it's too late, trust me, it is not. There are a lot of opportunities out there. And I'm not saying that there isn't people out there really struggling and having no access to these things, but we do have people that have these opportunities that can create and open doors for those people that do not have access to what we do. If the current state of the economy is not pushing you towards improving yourself and your finances now, it will not do it later, and it will be way too late.
Here's the thing that a lot of Americans need to understand. America is no longer a country for the regular, everyday Joe Schmo. America is no longer the country for the average middle class working man or woman. America is now the rich playground. And maybe some of you have felt like this is probably how it's been for the past, 10, 20 plus years. But now even more so, we can feel it, right? And then America, the politicians, they have no problem with telling you exactly how they feel. And they're telling you right to your face, we're only catering towards the rich. We're only catering towards the stockbrokers, right? We're only catering towards the stockholders, the investors, right? The ones who have, significant assets, the ones who have a great portfolio, if you will. Those are the people that they're catering towards. And as you just heard, they do not care about the American people. Right? And let's put it into perspective. The majority of people, right, in America are living paycheck to paycheck. The majority of people in America, are one paycheck away from losing their home. They're one paycheck away from getting evicted. They're one paycheck away from just absolute ruin, right? And that has been the case for a good while now. And as we continue to see more jobs become eradicated, right? As we continue to see AI and robotics take over, the haves and the have-nots is only going to just get wider and wider. And the American government is preparing for that. What you guys got to understand is the government is a business in itself, right? The government is a business in itself. It has to look out for its own well-being, right? That's why they have balance sheets. That's why they, spend money the way that they do. Hell, governments are now even buying Bitcoin, right? They're buying crypto assets. That is, the whole government operates as a business, right? So now it's getting to the point where the American government is abandoning the American people. This is an all-out assault on the American public. The government is saying, to hell with y'all, right? To hell with y'all. We gave y'all this, we gave y'all that. Now it's time to restrict. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the government in real time restrict, right? So here's what has to happen. Okay? You either have to find a way, right? You have to build a system for yourself. You're going to have to go all out in attaining assets for yourself and your family, right? Or you can stay stuck like Chuck. You only have two options, right? And as the other video said, right, this type of environment, it is going to force people to be innovative, right? It is going to force people to cut back on what they need to cut back on. right? There's no more frivolous spending anymore, right? Those days are long gone, especially if you don't have it. No more frivolous spending, no more going out, no more just, spending money on this restaurant and this fast food whenever you feel like it, right? No more of that. You really have to watch every penny now, right? Some of you may actually, I've even heard people having to cut down from 3 meals a day down to 2 meals a day. Yes, it's getting that serious. It's getting that serious, especially when you have people who have to choose between, how much food that they're going to put on the table, right? What we're going to eat this week versus the electric bill versus the water bill, right? And these things are said to increase, especially nowadays when we're in such a energy crisis. And as you guys can see, I'm in a brand new neighborhood. Let me turn the camera around so you guys can see. A brand new neighborhood that they're building. I believe these are townhomes. They look great, actually. They look great. Now selling. They look great. As you guys can see, beautiful, beautiful townhomes right here in Plano, Texas. So as I've said before, people have the money, right? People have the money. It's just about who are you, right? Are you the one with the money, right? Are you the money man? Are you the money woman, right? People have the money and they're no longer building homes. They're no longer building apartments for the average everyday Joe Schmo, right? The average rent is around, in most major cities, you're paying on average around $1,800. That's on average. Some may say even 2,000 is the average depending on where you are. But around 1,800 to 2,000 is probably the average rent if you want to stay in a decent neighborhood. Now, I'm not talking about you guys who are willing to sacrifice and you want to stay in a roach infested area for the time being, right? Not talking about that, right? If you want to stay in a decent area and if you have kids, you want to stay in a good school system, right? You're going to be paying $2,000+, right? They're no longer catering towards the middle class. The middle class, like I've said before, is gone, right? The people who are at the bottom, right? They're going to continue to be at the bottom, right? They're not catered towards that. The government is cutting back. As you can see, they're wiping food stamps. They're wiping government assistance. The government just don't have the money, right? Everybody wants the government to step in, but not understanding that the government is a business in itself, right? And they have to cut spending. And that's going to leave millions and millions of people out to dry. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's just like a business. It's just like any one of these other corporations. Once they close shop, they close shop and you're going to have to fend for yourself. So, like I've said before, we're entering into a two-tier economic system, right? We're entering into a two-tier economic system. And the government is letting you know exactly where they stand. The corporations are letting you know exactly where they stand, right? They're throwing up a bunch of luxury apartments. They're not throwing up apartments to help the needy. They're not throwing up houses to help the needy. Maybe a nonprofit possibly is throwing that up, right? But besides a nonprofit, right? Besides the traditional, companies who wants to help the homeless, who wants to help the hungry, things of that nature. Besides them, nobody else is doing it, right? Let me take a sip of this coffee. Still some good coffee, right? But nobody is doing that. And quite frankly, nobody wants to do it, right? Nobody wants to do it. So, guys, it is now more important than ever to go ahead and start planning your future, right? You should have already been doing that. But I think now more than ever, right? Now more than ever, we are at critical times. Okay? We're in critical times. And a lot of people are still, you know, trying to guess, right? They're still hoping that the government is going to come along and save the day. They're still hoping that the administration is going to come along and save the day. Listen, folks, that is not going to happen. The reason why the stock market continues to get better and better, right? The reason why the S&P 500 continues to get better and better, because the ones who are in control, right, of all of these asset classes, the ones who are in control, the ones who have the money, right? They're the ones that they're looking out for. So yes, all of these asset classes, you're going to continue to see growth. You're going to continue to see growth in crypto, right? I believe that we're going to see Bitcoin hit $1 million over the next 5 years. I believe so. I believe Bitcoin over the next 5, maybe 10 years, we're going to see Bitcoin hit 1 mil, right? It's definitely going to hit a $250,000. But this is the future, right? The future is cryptocurrency. The future is blockchain, right? The future is AI and the infrastructure behind it. The future is data centers, right? The future is technology. So this is not anything that we can necessarily stop. They're already pouring money into it. You already have Meta pouring money into data centers, right? You already have, who else is that? We already have Tesla pouring money into data centers. You already have Google or Alphabet throwing money into data centers. And like I've said before, we've seen the whole debacle that happened up in Utah with the data center being built and the community not wanting that data center around. And we're going to see more instances like that with data centers being built in communities where there's, you know, an abundance of water, an abundance of natural resources. And I believe there's going to be a point in time where there's going to be huge instances where there's going to be shortages of water, right? There's going to be shortages of water. And the only people that are going to have good access to water in the coming years are going to be the people who have the money. And this is by no means a video advocating for some of the evil that is going on or some of the just all out abandoning people in need. This is not what this video is about. However, what else is there to do, right? What else is there to do but get on your P's and Q's, right? What else is there to do but set yourself up, set up your family? And me, quite frankly, I believe that entrepreneurship is the way and the only way moving forward, right? Because a lot of these jobs that many of you even work, these jobs are not going to exist over the next 3 to 5 years, right? Look at these. These are beautiful as well, right? Angle this camera. These are gorgeous. All of these are available. Oh, we have one sold right there, but available. These are three-story homes, right? 3-story homes. Hopefully the individuals are buying it and not a lot of these companies that are buying these homes, because we know how that happens. So we're even going to enter a time period. I've seen lots of communities where they're only for rent, like brand new communities, not for sale, but for rent, right? And as you can see, guys, look at this. They're building like warehouses. Let me see if I can zoom in. Looks like a warehouse in the back. I don't know what that is supposed to be. Maybe a grocery store or something. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Maybe I'll find a sign or something that states what this is. But yeah, we're going to see in the future where, you know, the majority of people are not going to, they're not going to own their homes, right? The whole saying, you will own nothing and be happy, that is already coming to fruition, right? There's a huge difference in 2026 and maybe 1970s and 1980s, when a good 60, 70, maybe even 80% of people owned their homes, right? And then a good portion of people who were 30 years old actually owned their homes as well, or at least were in process of owning a home and had a family. Nowadays, that number is literally cut in half, maybe even more, right? The majority of people do not have that. They do not have a savings. They do not have, a good amount of money to put down on a home, to put down on a real estate, let alone go ahead and start having a family, go ahead and start having some babies. That's just not what's going on anymore. Most of the traditional lifestyle that many families were able to, enjoy 30, 40 years ago is non-existent now, right? And probably the people who are probably even buying these are probably, hey, what's up? 7-Eleven? Nah, but if you walk that way towards the gym, that QT is right there. Yeah. Yeah, so you walk back that way, go towards the gym, and then just make a right. That QT is right on the right side. But the majority of people that are probably buying these homes, they're probably single, right? As we've seen a few stats, there are more single women, especially under 40, who are owning more homes than their male counterparts, right? And, we don't have to get into the whole male versus woman thing. I'm kind of over that. I'm kind of sick of it at this point. It's not productive. However, a good reason for that is because, there's been a big push for women to be more independent. That's not really, an argument that I'm about to get into, but it is what it is. And men typically have bought homes because they had families. Now you have a significant amount of men nowadays who not only can afford it, but why buy a home, from a logical standpoint, if, you have no family, what's the point? Why buy a whole home when I can just rent, until I have a family? So even the majority of people, you have a good amount of people who are single, who are buying real estate as well. And, it just is what it is, folks. But all in all, the economy is now for the productive. The economy is now for the rich. The economy is now for the well-off. The poor, the impoverished has been left behind, and there's nothing else, right? They've seen that they can sustain the economy. They've seen that they can sustain, these asset classes without the poor, right? Without the middle class. Now, I'm not saying that that's a good thing, right? And we don't know how that will really, how far that can go before, an actual crash. We don't know, right? We don't know it all. But, if you have eyes, let thy see. And if you have ears, let thy hear. And we can clearly see and hear exactly what they're getting at and exactly what's going on. And I can't do nothing but tell you guys to get your money up and not your funny up. And if you have to move, if you have to change countries, because at this point, it doesn't matter about changing states anymore, right? Changing states doesn't matter. And that's coming from somebody who who have changed. I've went across the whole country and changed states myself. Coming from somebody who've done it, you're gonna run across the same thing across many places in the United States, right? I mean, you can obviously choose to stay in the middle of nowhere in bumfuck Oklahoma or somewhere, or Mississippi or somewhere, right? You can obviously do that, but listen, there's no jobs there. There's no, real infrastructure there. So, hey, you can do that or not. But what I'm more so about is helping people move overseas, which is something that I am about to do as well. So I can have the utmost leverage, the most leverage I can possibly get, so that my family and myself can benefit, and quite frankly, benefit as, Americans, being an American, having the USD at my disposal. It is what it is. At this point, you have to do everything in your power and do what you got to do to get ahead. And a lot of people think that there's going to be a lot of handouts and a lot of sympathy and a lot of empathy going out. The government could give a flying F about your problems or about what you're going through. And you have to sear that in your head, right? You have to sear that in your head and go ahead and get to it, because the government clearly is not coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save you, actually. And they don't care if you end up homeless. As you can see, they're building up homes that are not for the majority of people. I believe these homes that I've showed you, these townhomes, are starting at $400,000. They're starting at $400,000. But once they start building around this area, those prices are going to go up. Property taxes are going to go up. And these probably end up, around 600, 700,000 before you know it. And these are only townhomes. These are not even whole homes. So you're sharing a space right next door, literally, with someone else. But, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think about, me doing these walking videos, these informative videos, me just walking and talking, right? Sun's out, guns out. And listen, the after pill is the ideology. The escape blueprint is the framework. And PFP life is how you should live, right? Hit that link down in the description if you want to gain more knowledge, if you want to gain more wisdom, if you want to learn how to use AI to your advantage, if you want to learn how to build your own application, if you want to also figure out if moving overseas is for you or not, right? We have a whole family over there on the Patreon. And if you want to take it a step further, you can also join the inner circle, right? That group is full of like-minded individuals who are moving in the same exact direction. And that is a growing community as of now. So hit that link in the description if you want to be more, if you want to do more, and if you want to see more. And listen, this may be your last chance. I do have a 40% discount going into the Patreon. That is only going to last for the next probably week. You want to get in before it disappears. And I'll see you guys over there. Peace.
I built a life. I built a family. I worked my hands raw to get here, and I'm not done. This is the escape blueprint, PFP life, a way out of the grind and into control. You'll learn how I stack cash, build systems, and reclaim time so you can live on your own terms. You will watch me maneuver and grind towards the life that I achieve for myself, and you can also do the same. Join the circle, join the Patreon, learn the steps, and protect your freedom. The escape blueprint, PFP life.